Hello, and welcome back to the next episode of the podcast. Excuse me, sorry. Today, great intro. Today, I decided we're taking a new direction with the podcast. This is very different. We're covering a topic that is probably going to be quite controversial. Why? I don't know why. I guess it is kind of controversial. It's also kind of just a lot of people will probably have disputes with some of the things that I might state here. I'm not sure. I mean, it's always possible, right? And I'd like to say that I've done my best to do lots of research, and I will be citing articles, statistics that I've read through and researched, and I will be quoting them. And I will be putting all of my sources in the description box below, wherever that may be. And yeah, so the topic, in case you didn't know, it's about competitive gamer girls. Where are they? Where are they? And I did want to say a disclaimer, however, and I'm reading off like a thing I wrote. I wrote like a whole essay. It's like 7 pages long, and I don't know how long this is gonna go. I don't know if we're gonna go off the normal time. I don't know if we're gonna go overtime. That's fine though. We love that. Okay. Disclaimer. Due to the fact that there isn't a whole heap of research conducted on specifically women in games, some of this will be opinionative from me, and I'll let you know when I'm giving my opinion. And I know we can't always rely on anecdotal evidence or experience, but I do believe that I have a unique position here because I'm a woman that's been gaming my whole life. I've seen a lot of things. I also know a lot of women in games. I've made friends, surprisingly. And I have a bachelor's in game design too. Graduated with distinction. Probably for my essay writing, but you might not notice that here because I'm a bit rusty, but yeah. So I think my perspective is a little bit rarer, and I don't. I really. This is really hard to say without trying to sound like I'm trying to be humble and stuff. Like it's really not that big of a deal, but my problem is I don't see a lot of women who I guess have the same background as me talking about this as much. And so I really wanted to make a video on this and do some research, and plus my community on Kick has been asking me about this a lot lately, so I really wanted to do some research and learn more about it, be more informed of it, and I genuinely think after all the research I did this last week, I think I've gained a new perspective on things. I think I've learned a lot of things I didn't know. I think there was always like in the back of my mind some idea about like why there's not many competitive girls, and I always had ideas, right? But I never really knew much about like the details of it all. So we're gonna get into the details. Hopefully people can find my perspective interesting. And look, I also want to say I know that there's girls out there who are like me who've been gaming their whole life, but I'm saying like I don't think there's many people who are talking about it from that point of view. I guess I see a lot of like guys and stuff making videos about it, and I love that. Get in on the conversation, guys. But I want to see like what other girls have to say about it and their opinions. But anyway, yeah. So I also wanted to say also furthermore, I'm not saying that every gamer or even every man is an issue or the issue because that would be really dumb to say and it's not helpful. It's not. There are a few communities that are actually really really good and kind. Okay, so let's keep that in mind, and I hope that we can all keep an open mind. So let's unpack why there aren't many competitive gamer girls. And by competitive, I mean like esports. So, we're not seeing many girls in the esports scene, some specific games, but we'll go into all that. So, number one, could it be that there's just not many gamer girls to begin with? Well, according to the ncbi.nlmnih.gov, don't know what they're called, according to recent statistics, over 45% of Western gamers are now estimated to be female. and Brighter Global says it's now 48% of the gaming population. So it's kind of jumped up, and I think all the more recent articles I've been reading and research says it's around 48% of Western gamers are women. So that's awesome. However, less than 5% of pro players participating in world championships are female. But it isn't from a lack of interest. Survey results reveal that 36% of the 1,500 female gamer participants expressed interest in entering an esports. Wow. So we got the girlies coming in. They're interested. They want to know. They want to know what's up. But there's still maybe a little bit of unsureness. Okay. To add on to that, some efforts have been made, but only very recently, to drive inclusivity, such as League of Legends hosting all women's tournaments. So it's a division of genders, which we will also go into later on. But it is an attempt to try and get women more involved in everything. And you might have your own opinions about that, but hold on. Yeah, there's also been some embarrassing attempts to force all female teams, and if you don't know about Vevictus is kind of the usual example that everyone likes to make when it comes to why we shouldn't be forcing inclusivity and stuff. And to be honest, Vevictus was an embarrassing blunder for everyone involved, and it's really sad and disheartening for the rest of us, because it does become a reflection of us women, and people kind of, as you can see, quoted all the time on YouTube as a thing against us. If you don't know what Vevictus was, a quick little rundown is they were, I think, one of the first all-team female teams in League of Legends. They were in the Russian LCL or something, the Russian competition, and they famously lost abysmally. And they actually hit a record time for game lost in a league tournament, or a tournament in general. It was 13 minutes to be exact. And they now continue to play in the professional scene, but they stick to women only tournaments now. So there's that, and it's interesting because we will see a shift. So there will be this example of the all female tournament playing team, and then we will see the opposite later on. But yeah, I personally, I don't like the whole story around Vevictus, because it feels like it was a very forced thing. I think one of the big things about it was that I don't know if it was a guaranteed spot for a women's team, and Vevictus is what turned out to be in the guaranteed female spot. And then I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like what happened, and I think what happened kind of set us back a little bit. But yeah. The reason for dividing female and male tournaments doesn't come from traditional sports sense. For example, when men just have naturally better strength than women, for example. Men do not actually have an inherent gift for gaming, but it's due to time spent gaming. So according to Live Science, they found that women spend less time playing overall than men, but I think the difference is maybe a couple of hours. Right? It's a couple of hours or something. That's not the whole part of the problem. Another part of the issue. Sorry, I'm doing my timestamps. Number 2. So if it's not a population issue, which we've established, is it a skill issue? Well, not quite. It's really a social issue. So I get it. I get it's annoying to some people when they see companies making efforts to pander to an audience, or efforts to increase diversity, inclusivity. But this is the exact reason why it works, and it is a good thing. I know it's annoying. I know it is. It's a good thing, though. I think when it's done right, it's a good thing. When it's done oh, let's make James Bond a woman, ooh. It's kind of okay, we don't want that. We don't want that, thank you. Thanks, but no thanks. That's just going to make us hated even more. So, awesome. According to Brighter Global, only a quarter of women discovered gaming by themselves, as the majority was introduced to it by others, usually a male relative, a father, or an older brother. Or maybe in some cases, someone's grandpa. That'd be cute. Yeah, that's how it was for me. I grew up playing video games because of my dad and my brother. That's how we had family time. We'd play like Duke Nukem together on LAN, and oh, so much fun. I remember just the rocket launcher was so funny. But I was young. I was like the youngest, so I'd get blown up and I'd cry about it. So yeah, that was good though. That was good. Yeah. So it's not a secret that a majority of the female player base is growing, but also entering the hobby of gaming at a later stage than males, and therefore women generally are not on the same playing field as men who have spent their whole lives gaming. It's unfortunate. So imagine this. Do you remember what it was like learning to adjust from using like arrow keys to WASD? Do you remember learning how to copy and paste folders onto your computer? I do. These are all things that I remember very vividly having difficulties with, but getting better at. And do you remember how hard it was, but you still figured it out? Well, imagine trying to learn all of this stuff as an adult with or a full-time student who also has maybe a job as well on the side. Your time for leisurely activities is cut so short that as you get older, I think the barrier for entry must be really tough and not encouraging at all. And that's not taking into account all the other stuff I'm going to talk about. So I think it's kind of we're at a disadvantage with that. And I think additionally, women generally spend more time cooking, cleaning, and attending to tasks outside of the gaming realm. That is been a lot of research done on that. Women uphold a lot of labor outside of gaming and stuff, household labor. And when you factor in school, work as well, the time left for learning how to use a PC, let alone the entirety of the League of Legends 2 billion champion roster, it's pretty low. It's pretty low. Right, so this is what I was talking about before. Women were seen to spend less time gaming than men, but nevertheless, still 8 hours per week on average versus the 12 hours amongst men, according to Brighter Global. So there is a timing aspect of it, which I think is very interesting. And another thing that is very intriguing about this is there's a difference in interest. So, according to Live Science, men tend to focus more on achievement in video games, leveling up rapidly, gaining in game status, and competing against others, while women are drawn to social interactions, whether it's helping other players or forming long-term relationships. There are a few different studies that are really suggesting that women and men just have different interests and intentions when it comes to video games. So that could also be another part of the disparity between the com- competitive gamers and stuff. My personal feelings about it is that I think a lot of women are maybe intimidated. They don't want to try or they're too scared to attempt it, which is a completely valid reason to not do it. And I do think that if you want to become like a pro gamer, pro female gamer, there's going to be a lot of extra pressure to perform and prove to the world that we can play video game good. We play good. We can do good. So, and I'm going to get into sorry, excuse me. I'm going to get into another part of that later. But if you're curious how guys got into games in the first place, and why they've been in games for so long at such early ages. It has a lot to do with the marketing of video games and identity. Ooh. So, when players have a character they can relate to or whose story or backstory they want to explore further, they're more likely to show stronger, better long-term engagement. And a part of getting women invested in gaming is creating games that can appeal to them. Of course, this isn't as much of an issue anymore, let me be clear about that. But I think it definitely was a part of the problem when I was younger and when I was growing up. I'm Gen Z. So that's kind of like a time frame for you. A lot of games were centered around men being heroes and women being, I don't know, women being the type that need help and stuff. They need rescuers and shit. And then there was a lot of pixel pussy and titties that also appeal predominantly to men, which I will say I wrote that because I thought it was funny, but I think the first thing that comes to mind is like Lara Croft's Tomb Raider. She was very sexualized, and I think I mean there's probably other examples like Samus. Samus was always seen as like a really cool character, and then they gave her like the bodysuit and stuff. So I don't know. It's kind of a complicated topic for me because I actually don't mind the sexualization that much. I think when it comes to like different types, I'm not sure to be honest because I actually really like playing Dead or Alive. I really like the girl characters. I think they're cute. I love playing Dead or Alive beach volleyball. It's like it's one of my favorite. It's the only reason I ever bring out the PS4 because I want to play DOA X3 and I love it. A lot of people will have different opinions, but I personally love it. I grew up playing those games, so and I don't know what it is. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm just weird, but I kind of don't mind them. I like it. I think I kind of view it as like a Barbie type of thing. It's like I like to dress them up and look at like the pretty clothing and stuff. I like that. But I will say that the whole gaming thing has improved a lot. I think we're getting a lot of cool games that appeal to all sorts of people. And for me personally, I don't find the sexualization bothers me, but research has been done to show that the sexualization does negatively impact the way that men see and like view women and treat them, and it also has a negative impact on a lot of women and their like body and self-esteem and stuff. So I'm sure a lot of you might be thinking about Stellar Blade, but yeah. But I think it's improved a lot, and I'm not going to get into like a whole argument about like the sexualization stuff because I haven't done the research on that specifically. But maybe I'll make another video about it. I don't know. Depends on if I'm interested in it. So a really big part of why guys and gaming in general has been seen as a very man thing or a dude thing is because of marketing decisions made in the 80s and early 90s. It greatly influenced the video game history and where we stand today. And Dr. Rebecca Davnell says, the gendering of products is a linchpin of contemporary marketing. Gender is part of your identity. It is for everyone. One of the first frameworks that's imposed on you after you're born. So no one's born like likening pink to like a girl, you know? No one's born thinking that. That's something that we are kind of indoctrinated into thinking at an early age. Indoctrinated is probably like a really strong word there, but that's what it is. And associate a product with an identity transforms buying it into an act of self-affirmation. And look, I know we hear like acts of like self-affirmation all the time. It really does apply to like everyone. It's not just like a this gender or that gender. We all do stuff that self-affirms who we are. And yeah, gaming kind of became one of those things. And because it's such a strong link to identity, I think people get very protective of it, which makes sense, you know? I think for me, when I was growing up, I was always very acutely aware of things that were typically girly, and I would try my best to avoid those things because I didn't like the connotations of girliness, you know? Like pink. I was like, I like purple, I don't like pink. And now at my old age, I'm like, I like pink actually. Pink's alright. It's a color. Who cares? It's a color. I don't give a fuck. Blue is my favorite color though. Oh no, the boy color. So this is also where console wars came into play, as it's a part of one's identity. So there's also some intermingling, also PC wars and stuff like PC's better than console, you know. Although some of that might be due to like technology aspects and stuff. I think some people might see like the process of building your own PC as like a very like affirming identity thing or like something that uplifts you in a community because it's like I did it myself. And so there's probably a bit more to that, but gaming has been seen as a core masculine identifier. And I think it's the same with using technology, cars, sports. It's in a lot of things. And, you know, we've even seen lately with women's leagues in like football and stuff. That's been going pretty hardcore lately, actually. It's crazy to think that that's only really like more of a recent thing, and it's the same with gaming. The competitive girls scene is like we're seeing it really grow, but we'll get into that. And also, if you don't like talking about the gendering of products and stuff, I kind of get that, but at the same time, we have to identify that marketing creates interest, and it's such like a psychological manipulative game that marketers play on us, and it's the reason why, you know, Barbies are Barbies and My Little Ponies are My Little Ponies and yada yada yada. So it's definitely a thing, and it has a lot of impact on our society, as we can see, and it has had an everlasting impact on gaming culture. So the next thing I want to go into, which I was actually really surprised about, this is really interesting to me because I've definitely experienced it, and it is called the psychological phenomenon of stereotype threat. Now, psychologists call this stereotype threat the anxiety caused by awareness of a negative stereotype about a demographic that one belongs to that can hurt concentration. And I get that it sounds like cope, but it's a real psychological barrier, and a study actually found that the stereotype threat could cut women's spatial reasoning scores by a full 20%. Wow, that's from womeninstem.co.uk. I will say the reason why this hit me so hard when I read it, I didn't even know it was real, but I've experienced this before. I'm sure we've all probably experienced this at some point, right? I remember for me, I don't feel it as much with video games. I think I used to. I definitely used to. I don't anymore. But I feel like when it comes to driving and cars, I definitely feel that stereotype a lot. It used to be a really bad thing for me because when you're in a car and like a man's driving and stuff, that I don't know how it is, but in Australia, pretty much every single guy will say this. They'll be like, "Oh, this person's driving so shit. Oh, it's a woman. Typical. There's probably a woman." And then it's like it's not a woman. It's like they pipe down real fucking quick when it's not a woman. But it definitely had like a bad impact on me when it came to driving and stuff. But over time, I overcame that, and I think you too can also overcome this stereotype threat if you improve at something. I guess because then you can kind of prove to yourself, like, well, actually, I got better at this, so, you know. And also remember that mistakes happen. Okay, this next one that I want to talk about, yeah, it was very short on that one, but I've had a personal experience with that, and you might have as well. I wouldn't be surprised. The next thing is monetary incentive. There's very little incentive to dedicate your time to a video game when there's so few opportunities already. Teams usually won't take on women, and I think I wrote down further down why that is, but I'll just say it here now. I feel like teams won't take on women because it'll kind of like disrupt the vibe, I think, in some ways. I think that's how it's seen anyway. Because it's like if you go your whole life playing games and it's just you and the boys, and then suddenly you want to add a girl into the mix, I feel like it does kind of complicate things, and it's unfair. Like, of course, it's unfair. It doesn't make that okay, but I understand that guys, like, some guys will be like uncomfortable, some guys are going to want to e-date. It's just what happens, which is, I think, part of a bigger issue that I don't think we're going to be able to tackle anytime soon. So, I originally wrote this section arguing about Sasha Hostin being the top female esports earner. However, and this is going to be controversial, but I found out yesterday while I was doing some final research that she is a trans woman, so she was assigned male at birth. So, I think this just, if anything, shows my point about how guys who grew up gaming just have like an advantage, right? So I didn't want to scrap this next part out because I still think it has relevancy, but keep in mind that this woman that I'm talking about was a man at birth. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to bring that up. You know, am I going to curse myself and be like, Sasha, you're not going to watch this, but if you do, I'm sorry, I respect you. I had no idea until like yesterday, but respect. I don't want to take away from like their achievements, right? But I'm saying that this is more like talking about women who were assigned female at birth and their experiences, because there is a social and gendered experience here that I think is very important part of everything. But I'll get into it nonetheless. Sasha Hoston is a Canadian StarCraft 2 player and is recognized as the highest paid female pro gamer. And she is ranked 370th or something in the world, I believe. It's around 300 or something. She's not even in the top one. There is no women in the top 100, 200 esports owners. There just isn't. And at the time of this comparison that I'm about to make, her earnings were around 269,161. I think now it's more like 400,000 current date. And then back in this time, when you compared her to Pierce Hillman, a Canadian Call of Duty World War II player, who was roughly earned 269,607, he at the time was only 869th highest paid male pro gamer. And to this day, Sasha still remains the highest paid female esports player, but like I said, she probably still had that early age advantage that men get. I mean, if you're playing StarCraft 2, it's like you had to be, right? I don't think a lot of people play that game anymore, do they? I think StarCraft 2 was just a bit after. No, I was a little bit. Was I too young or something? I think I was a little bit too young to really know or play that game. I don't know. Hold on, I want to look it up actually. StarCraft 2. I should have looked this up earlier. What the hell? What year is it? Doesn't say. 98. Oh my god. Yeah. Oh my god. Yep. That explains why I don't know. Lol. Okay. Yeah, so it's interesting, but good news. Things are changing. That's the really important thing. It seems like only in the past year, though, has female driven esports seen a huge surge in popularity. And so in 2023, it was marked as several advancements in women's esports, which just last year. And the total watch time for female esports broadcasts clocked around 28 million hours. It's pretty good. I think most of it was Valorant and Mobile Legends. Those are the more prominent scenes for female esports players and boast great viewership that only increases as time goes on. Yeah, I remember looking at the graph for it, and it's been getting up there in the past few years. So basically, the female pro gamer scene is kind of flourishing in Asia, and they have major events including us in them. And thanks to that, we have been able to accrue interest from shareholders and more potential sponsorships. So interestingly, though, the gamer population, or the female population of gamers in Asia is around 37%. So it's less than Western, but it seems like we're getting more included over there. I will say, um, in Asia, mobile games are very popular over there. They're very, like, I think I saw a statistic that was like half of Chinese gamers will base their phone buying decisions based on how powerful games they can run. And on top of that, women are actually quite a big demographic when it comes to mobile games and are more likely to spend money on it too. But yeah, thanks Red Bull and ByteDance for making these events for us. It's sad that we can't get this going in Western society. It really is, but we're trying to get there, I suppose. So aside from financials, what I'm going to get into next is impossible not to address or mention, but I really have to. I really do. And some of this is going to be a bit more of like my opinion, but I have to say there is a lot of research to back up what I'm saying. This is probably one of the most researched things about women in games. And it's kind of the one thing that we always talk about in tandem with women in games. It's always like there. And that is the toxicity because we deal with undeniably worse toxicity. I'm gonna say that that's my opinion. I think that, I believe that, I've lived it all my life. And a lot of people argue that toxicity is just part of the internet and that women should just deal with it and that we're being unreasonable asking for change. But a lot of people haven't experienced what we experience on a day to day basis and at a larger scale. According to Global, women also cited instances of being stalked and pestered on other online platforms that kind of went beyond the games. It's like people will see you in the game and then they'll go beyond to like follow you. And some even being faced with the threat of stalking in real life. And I this has happened to like everyone. Like every woman that I know. I've got some venting to say here. However, game chat is not about strategizing or communicating. Game chat is really just a place for people to vent their frustrations, and seemingly however the fuck they please. The majority of people don't use it to communicate game plans. Like seriously, and when people do try to communicate game plans, they do it in like the most aggro way possible, which is like the worst way to try and get people to do what you want to do. You know, it's like people have zero communication skills. And then when you actually do try to like communicate and you go like, you need to do this, you need to do this, people tell you to go kill yourself. You're like, I'm just trying to play the game, guys. I'm just trying to play the game. Ugh. But I'm not here to say and get on my soapbox and be like, we have it so hard. I'm here to say that, guys, toxicity is bad for everyone involved. I'm serious. It can skew communities and player retention and ultimately affect the health of the game. Get this. Imagine this. People who are new to gaming. Maybe you decide to play League of Legends. You saw the new show on Netflix. You're like, maybe I'll play that and I'll play Caitlyn. Oh my god, love her. These people probably have the worst time of all because they get into the game, they're trying to learn the game, they're trying to play, and they get teamed up with someone who's like level 1,000, and then this level 1,000 player starts getting tilted because they see like a fresh newbie on their team, and they're like, well, I'm gonna start feeding because what's the point in playing this game if my fucking ADC is gonna fucking feed? Could you understand anything I just said then? It's bad because then what happens is people will be like, well, this game's shit. Like, Arcane's cool, but fuck League of Legends, right? So then what they do is they leave. And then they leave because they can't really have fun and the fucking skill ceiling is so high. And you know what else they do is they take their friends with them. Sometimes it doesn't work out like that, but yeah, sometimes people, like whole friend groups, just leave the game permanently because it's just like not worth it, you know? So, toxicity has to be handled systematically. If game companies do not tend to community and restrict or enforce better behavior, it will not stop. So, take Comedy Night for an example, which is maybe a game you haven't heard of, but I actually had the displeasure of playing it because back when I was younger, I saw a YouTuber play it and I was like, I want to play that game. Yay! Ugh. It was basically a game where you had open lobbies to join, kind of like Gary's mod or like any like source game where you had like those searches for like server lists. There you go, server lists. Anyway, you could just join any lobby. I think they were just hosted by whoever. Red flag. And the game was just you'd get on top of a stage, people would be in a crowd, like real people, and you could do a comedy routine, but people could heckle you, I guess. I think people could chat in the audience. It's like open mic. It was a free game, I think. Was it a free game? I don't even remember. Oh my god, I need to look this up. Because now I'm thinking, I think I actually got a refund for it. No, it must have been free. I think it was. Comedy Night Gay. Oh god. Still on Steam. I wonder how it is doing. I think the game died, but I could be wrong. Recent reviews, negative. Oh, all reviews mostly positive. It actually is $7.50. Dude, I'm telling you, this game, $7.50 to get into like an in-game lobby where everyone's just screaming. It's just 5-year-old screaming the N-word. It's not funny. Okay, yeah, all the reviews are just like shit posting. Racism simulator. How do you get 17 hours in this? 66 hours recommended. 100% pure racism. 10 out of 10. So yeah, good luck being a woman in chat. Good luck. So yeah. Anyway, what ended up happening is it quickly devolved into people making all sorts of lazy jokes about minorities, women, the Holocaust, and shit, and basically just lobbing the N word every 2 words, which is reaffirmed by the reviews. People did beg the moderators to, or the owners, the developers, to moderate the game, to create some form of moderation, but developers never did anything, and the game succumbed to a wealth of negative reviews for a poor experience and horrible community. The game died, obviously. I think it's dead, but let me check the community hub. Is anyone playing right now? Online PvP, wow. They have a Discord. Let's see, Steam leaderboards, maybe that'll help. Nope, that did not help. Never mind. Wow, that was terrible. Stats? Okay, comedy. Okay, I think I have to search it myself. Wow. I am so lazy. Oh, I have to search it myself? What the fuck? Okay, so now... What the fuck is the point of this? Alright, whatever. I'm just gonna say it's probably dead. What's the point on being on it unless you're a racist? You're a racist? So yeah, people leave games that are just unfun and toxic, and like I said, they often take their friends with them, because gaming for a lot of people isn't really about competition or proving yourself. You know, for a lot of people, it can also be about connecting and having fun. Having fun. League players, let me remind you, it's a game, it's for fun. Our league is just full of toxic people, and probably always has been to a degree, but there's no reason for sensibly mannered people to join and stick around, so yeah. I will say though, I think Valve has done a really good job with Dota 2 and ensuring there are plenty of tools to keep members of the community in check. And they pretty much isolate shitty players with the rest of the toxic nimwits, and I think it's genius. I like it. I think it's very good. So, we're going to get into another part of it, which is, I think, a little bit contentious, and I'm one of those people who contends it. Should there be a division between men and women in gaming? It's actually kind of a mixed issue. So, I believe there are women out there who have the potential to compete against men and win. Of course, I do. And I think things are definitely changing in a better direction. I just think we need to give it a little bit more time. And, I agree that there's a real concern that by dividing men and women into different leagues, we won't get used to versing each other, right? We won't get used to seeing one another in a competitive setting, which I think will undoubtedly further divide us. But I do like that there could be an option for people who don't feel comfortable doing it though. So I'm supportive of female only leagues, but I reckon it's needed now, but not forever. I think it's needed while we're fostering this community of female gamers. And I think, God, maybe in the next few years we're going to see more and more like women who get into gaming earlier. Now, unfortunately, I tried looking for stats on like women and what age they get into gaming and stuff, but I couldn't really find anything. But I think that with the way COVID went and the internet in general, I think it's becoming a lot more like normalized, a lot more common. So we might see in the next few years some like stellar gamer girls. Yeah, I also don't believe in tournaments that say like we guarantee at least one female spot. I feel like people interpret that as us getting special treatment, and I think that also furthers the stigma and divide between us. I I don't like that. And I would love to hear like opinions on like why we should do guaranteed female spots. But if it means guaranteed female spots for women entering the finals or something, or like the tournament to like be in. It's like I guess I don't really understand it all that much. Hmm. I don't think they're doing too much of that, but I know Formula One was doing something like that. And every time I see that happening, it's always the same discussion of like, oh, we're getting special treatment and stuff. And I don't really want it to be seen as that. So I don't really get the whole point of guaranteeing a spot. It's like you're guaranteeing a spot, but like what if the people who are guaranteed just suck, you know? It still doesn't change the fact that there's like a massive skill gap, I think, in most of the populations. It's tough. It's tough to really figure this stuff out because as we're seeing, there's just like so many different issues to it all. It's like a big problem. It's a big problem in that there's a lot of different aspects. So, something I mentioned earlier, the experience of actually joining a team. Hold on, let me write that. So, say you want to actually join a team. Well, I'm going to be talking a lot about my experience here because I think this is something that you can't really like survey. I think you can't really survey this experience, but I have my own lived experience. So, when I was involved in an experiment for League of Legends coaches, which was me being a player getting coached, well, we were like assigned a team, right? And coaches would coach the team. We play scrims. I think they're called scrims. I don't know. We play like custom games where we'd verse another team, and we'd get coaching afterwards and stuff, and be told like, "Well, you know, what do we do?" Um, this was not that big of an experiment. There was just two teams, I think, or there was like three, and there was one other girl in this experiment with me, just us two ladies. She was great. I love her. Um, I personally did not experience any sexism or harassment in the setting. The experiment was very strict on behavior and would not accept toxicity at any level. We actually had a couple of instances where people were almost taken out of it because they were not acting right. But they got their shit together, so it ended up being fine. We were there to learn how to play better and play as a team, essentially. It was really good. I learned a lot from it. However, there was this one individual in the server who kept harassing this other girl outside of the experiment. It was like trying to add her on Discord, and at first it was like very innocuous, but then he started asking for like pictures and trying to e-date her, and then sending her pictures in as well. And yeah, this was basically this was actually one of the things that I was warned about before joining the experiment because my friend who was also involved as like a player actually warned me that he'd seen this behavior before because he's done this type of stuff before, where guys will sometimes just foam at the mouth when a woman wants to play League with them and stuff. And I was also messaged a few times by this individual, but I ignored them because I already knew about what was happening with the other girl. So, yeah, that's what I mean by it kind of gets complicated sometimes because there's always going to be somebody, you know? There's always going to be somebody. And I think I even had like this problem when I was playing like Gary's Mod and stuff. You get like two very different ends of the spectrum where like some guys will follow you around on Gary's Mod and be like, "It's a girl. It's a girl." Which is funny, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. It's certainly nicer than having people just find you and harass you for no reason. Which also happened a lot on Gary's Mod. Dude, Gary's Mod was like my favoriteest game ever. I love Gary's Mod. It used to be so good. It's not what it used to be. It really isn't. I miss it. I miss it so much. But yeah, it did kind of get to a point where I was like, I can't play this game. I just can't. And even when I don't like talk on mic and I just type in chat, people still come up to me like, "Are you a girl?" Yeah. So I guess I need to start calling myself Daryl or something. Just get people off my fucking ass. So yeah, that was that whole League of Legends coaching experience. Um, yeah. God, we're already at the conclusion. I feel like I haven't been doing this for that long. Damn. Alright, so my conclusion is that I think that thankfully things are improving. Female gamers are on the rise, and so is speaking up about the harassment we face. The industry of game development is improving a little bit on these issues as we talk about it more, and hopefully more will get done. But I mean, the first thing I always think about is like Riot Games, Blizzard, and all the bad stuff that happens even within the industry. If you don't know much about like game developing practice or like the the vibes in the environment of these offices, there's so much research to be had. Like you should go into a rabbit hole of all the different companies that have done just like heinous stuff. Absolutely heinous stuff. Some some about even like employees farting on other employees as a joke. Like, oh my god. Like if you wonder why the communities in these games are so shit, sometimes you really do have to look at like the company. You really do. As for toxicity and dealing with it, uh, listen, you're gonna grow a thicker skin as time goes on. I'm telling you. You just have to remind yourself that people harassing you, they really don't know what they're talking about. They've got issues and they have a really poor understanding of the world. That's just like facts. Facts. That's facts. And generally, when I face toxicity, I prefer to go the route of silence and report like a petty bitch. I love being petty. For me, silence is the best because they end up typing a storm to themselves, and then the other people on the team get annoyed with them and then yell at them because they can't concentrate on what's going on. And then on the other side, I've muted them and I'm not even seeing what they're saying. So I can just get them banned or restricted, and it's an all-round winner for me. I like it like that. I think that's like the best way of going about it, but obviously it's very different when you're in a voice game, and the only thing you can really do about that is try to mute them if it's possible. I don't know if you can do that in Call of Duty. I don't really play Call of Duty, so I don't know. Call of Duty. But if you've grown a bit more confidence, you can just call them out on their laziness because, yeah, resorting to misogyny is like, dude, it's the most ridiculous and boring insult you can make and has no basis in reality whatsoever. It's just like, ye old timey humor. Or not even humor, it's just old timey bullshit. It's really dumb. Oh, yeah, well, that was a really big rundown. Damn, 7 pages. We only got to 40 minutes. Maybe I went too quickly with some of it. I don't know, but I guess like any other final thoughts do we have on this? Hmm. Okay, let's open up to Q&A. I've been playing video games my whole life. I like I said, I played Duke Nukem. I played what was it? I think I played a little bit of Halo, but not enough to be like, oh yeah, I played Halo. Um Neverwinter Nights was fun. Diablo 2, Diablo 1. Diablo is so good. Oh my god. Diablo is so fun. I feel like I'm very happy that I got to play these older games at the time when it was like newer, because I feel like when you play the games that we play today and you go back to like older games, it can be hard. It can be really hard to adjust to that. And yeah, like I'll say, there's also some like unique new issues that are arising. Like, for example, because of the cloud services, a lot of people these days, not just women, men too, like everybody, kids these days don't know how to save files on their computers because of cloud saving. That's really bad. That's really, 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 really bad. And then I think about like how little a lot of people know about like security online, and I think that it contributes to a lot of the anxieties around like the threats and stuff. Because if you're like new to games and the internet, and you get online and someone, I don't know, says, I'm gonna find you and I'm gonna blah 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 you, that sounds pretty scary. And when you don't know anything about computers or the internet, to you it really seems like it could just happen, and it probably could. So there is a lot of things that people should learn about when it comes to internet safety. I think a lot of people said stuff about finding or like getting stalked and stuff after playing games. And the problem is a lot of people will post so much of their personal info to social media that is like which makes it so much easier for people to find you and make those threats kind of like scarier. So really, like I can't put all of that information to one video. I just can't, but I'll just say, like, if you're really anxious about it, try and look things up, try and get more interested in technology, and try and understand more about, like, how you can keep yourself secure and private on the internet. There's no reason why you can't use the internet and still be private, but there's certainly a lot of things that you can or should avoid doing to ensure that, because it's really important. It really, really is. And also be wary when joining, I guess, servers that are hosted by individuals, because that's a way that they can get your IP address. And if they get your IP address, then they can generally find out like the location of where you are. I think in a very general way. I think what people usually do is they find the IP address, and then if they look at your other social media, they can get a very good idea of where you live based on like that kind of stuff. I don't know if you can get the exact house or whatever apartment you live in. But yeah, it's a really scary thing, but it's also something that, you guys need to know about. And maybe being a little bit scared is a good thing, because then you'll look it up and be more safe on the internet. So there's that kind of stuff. I mean, yeah, that's generally why, like, I don't. Because I've been, like, if I get a message on League, like, if I play a game of League, someone adds me, I'm like, what do they want to say? Because you always know if someone adds you after a game, they're like, oh, they're ready to type up a storm. Yeah, I've had threats and stuff, and to me, it's always just like, okay, they're just talking, they're just talking, because that's all that it is, really. It's empty shit. It's empty shit. But not everyone's gonna see it like that. And I think another interesting thing about all of this is that lately, it's been very odd for me to experience this, probably because I'm so used to playing games with like guys who already know like how to play, or they get pretty well accustomed to the games quickly because of all this prior knowledge and stuff. And recently I've been playing games with people who are like, I think not as like gamery, if that makes sense. And I've been finding it kind of frustrating for me. Yeah, like this is kind of like an actual catching up with Kate moment. I've been finding it kind of frustrating, but not because I'm frustrated, because like I'm like, uh, why can't you play a game good? Like, it's like I understand that like you're new to the game, you don't know how to play, it's hard. But yeah, I guess it's like a new thing for me to feel frustrated playing a game with someone, because I think usually in the past it's been me who's been like, oh, how do I do this? I think the big thing for me though is that I always try to listen to people when they're explaining those things, and I try to really learn about it and stuff. So yeah, it's been very interesting seeing this other side of it, where it's like, oh, now I'm the person who's having to like kind of teach and have the patience to be like, you know what, they're new and they're learning. And I've been trying to really do that a lot more in my League games, because I sometimes get paired up with, newbies and stuff. And just try to be like, you know what, they're new. It's not their fault. It's just the way it is. I mean, hell yeah, even if it's like a normal game, why are we getting mad in our normal games, guys? Why are we getting mad? It's a normal game. Calm down. Yeah, so I guess I've been going through some different stuff with that, but it's very interesting, the whole competitive gamer girl scene, and I hope you learned something from it. I hope you maybe learned something you didn't know, which is the definition of learning, so you're welcome. Now you know. And I hope you like this new direction of the podcast. I enjoyed researching this. I actually feel like I've learned things, which I feel like is so much better than just like talking about like, oh, this guy did this thing and it was crazy. I was kind of thinking of talking about P Diddy, but then I was thinking, well, I feel like all the like the big peeps have already gone over it. You know, they've already gone over it. It's kind of like whatever. Who cares, right? I mean, it is crazy. So I would say like, guys, if you're interested in learning about the facts of the P Diddy case, go check out Moist Critical. He actually did do a good video. I'm being kind of funny about it, but he did do a good video on it. Or him and his podcast team, whoever they are, they did a good job. So I would recommend it if you haven't seen it. It kind of just summed up the whole thing for me because I feel like everyone has this prior knowledge about P Diddy and all this stuff, and I'm like, huh, huh, what is all this stuff? Who's Cassie? Is her Cassie or is she Casey? I don't know. People call her Cassie. People call her Casey. You'll know when you look at it. All right, well, kind of a shorter episode, I guess, but we'll see what next week has in store. I might do this kind of like deep dive researchy stuff like every week, or we'll see how it goes. I'm probably gonna just cover topics that I'm interested in because otherwise I don't see myself doing this much work about something that I don't really care about. So yeah, we'll see what happens. And if you want like a particular topic covered or you want to suggest something, like suggest it down below, dudes. Does anyone say dudettes? That's too cringe. Sorry. All right. I'll see you later and have a good rest of your week, and I will catch up with you next Monday. All right. Goodbye.